Welcome back to my channel. This is Kat's podcast. I am Kat, your host. I am going to be making this part 8 of my testimony, and I will be speaking fast because I only have so many minutes, and I'm going to jump right in. Okay, after meeting and moving in with the guy that I was speaking about last time, let's just call him Lee. Well, he was informed by a friend about a place his friend said he would sell to him for 5,000 down, pay all the back taxes and everything, and then pay him 400 per month until a total of 25,000 was complete. He and his dad got to talking, and they were already paying 500 a month for rent. And now that I was there, if I was going to be staying around, then the three of us would be able to do it if we could get out of one place and straight into the other, and all utilities and inspections done, and get old place cleaned and perfect, so to get the deposit and use it for the first month's rent on the new place. But the new place isn't even livable, so I'm reading. So we'd have to also get it in at least to a livable condition. It was going to be a major job, but I vowed to start getting the place livable, and we could work on it more once we got there. Lee said he would get the old place packed up and hauled over to the new place, and in the last day, wait a minute, hauled over, and we could go in there. Oh, that we could go in there in the last day and bust our butts and clean it up so that we can get the deposit. His dad really couldn't do anything, so he would try to get the down payment together, but I would have to take care of getting utilities on, electric inspector, and getting everything turned off at one place, straight turned on at the other. And let's see, it was one of the hardest working months of my life. I had to order dumpsters. The place was so full of junk all the way up, all the way through the whole place. It was about waist high of stuff. Well, the people selling it wanted me to pack up their stuff and store it somewhere for them while I'm trying to get all this other done as well. It wasn't going to be easy, but so I decided I would just borrow a generator from my dad, because in order to complete this mission, I was going to have to try to somehow pull 2 days out of every one. So everything was going, and we ran into a lot of roadblocks. Like I had to chase down the electric inspector. He wasn't even going to come. I guess he was well aware of the mess, and when I caught him on the street one day, he said, "There's no way." He said, "Someone is going to have to make me a path or clear me a way to get through there to even get to the electric box." I said, "That's what I've been doing. It's clean." And he said, I said, "I've been doing it day and night. It's ready." He said, with shock, he's like, "Oh, okay." So he came over there and he was completely amazed. He said, "Wow, I really would have thought whoever would have got this place would have just took a match to it and start brand new." He said, "I'm completely amazed at the job you've done." He said, "Great job." He said, "And go figure, the electric box is brand new." We was both in surprise. Also, the guy selling it went to the library and printed up a contract for deed. And Lee and his dad and the guy, as well as me, went to the guy's aunt at a local insurance company, and they all three signed. I signed as a witness, and because she was a notary public. I got to speaking to my parents about this because let me just read. I got to speaking about my parents about this, and they insisted I take Lee and go to the courthouse and have it recorded, because my grandmother had paid for a place for years, and in the end, it was taken from her due to it not being recorded or legal. Lee and I had to take another 3 days just to run back and forth, office to office, here and there, everywhere, to even get this done. They stated it was an attorney's job to do all of this, which we said, "We get it, but we don't have money for the attorney." So we was going to have to do it ourselves. Everything had to be searched, because there was 3 deeds to the place, but 2 was all he was selling to them. And something kept popping up on them. And one of them I didn't think was very good. After our second afternoon at the courthouse, We were about to, or they were about to close, and we were standing in the clerk's office, and she had just found some paperwork. I seen the concerned look in her eyes, so I asked, "Is everything okay and clear on them?" She said, "Well, I'm not really allowed to tell you that, but she seemed she had sympathy for us, so she said, I tell you what, come back tomorrow morning and we will all go down to the basement and we will look around and see what we can't find." I said, "Thank you so much." So Lee and I thanked her, and on our way home, but wait a minute. I tried to explain. He still wasn't understanding. I tried to explain his friend may have not had the best intentions, through the best intentions, thus the reason for the quick library print up. And he was given $5,000 down, and however long he would have paid the $400 per month would have all been free money to him, yet no deed to them. He was not none too happy, nor was his dad. The reason I even mentioned anything to my parents was due to the fact I found all kinds of different kinds of paperwork as I was cleaning the place. So I gathered it all together and everything, and when everything that pertained to the residence, and even his grandparents lived there before him, and when they passed they gave it to him, so a bunch of their paperwork was there as well. So I even had the paperwork from where they had got the place. I gathered everything and kept it all in a case. Well, I found papers on a loan that the guy that was selling it to them had taken out against the property. And when I looked at the loan, it wouldn't even be completely paid until 2017. Mind you, this is 2012, the beginning of 2013. If that loan isn't paid, then the land is already promised to them before anyone else until the loan is satisfied. I told Lee, do not say nothing to his friend, or no one for that matter. I said, because if that's the case and it is all taken care of, when we can get it all taken care of before the contract is up, then he has to know and has to be thinking this whole time that you all aren't going to be getting anything for all the money that is being paid out. So he agreed. We went the next morning to the lady at the clerk's office, and she went down to the basement with us to search boxes. She found something. After pulling it out, I I said, is everything okay? And she said, well, one here, no, it's not okay. She said, there is a loan on it. I said, I knew it. Well, before the contract for deed could even be recorded, it had to be paid. So his dad worked everything out along with the back taxes, and Lee and I both were paying all that we could extra for all the fees and everything at the courthouse, and we did it. I told him to stay hush hush, and he would he would see. Basically, if not for me, and please understand, I am not mentioning this to boast in any way, but at a later point in my testimony, you'll see why I had to bring up this point. But if not for me finding these loan papers and looking into it, then mentioning it to my parents, we never would have been aware of making it legal by having it recorded, and they would have paid out all of that money only to never have anything to show for it. But a month to month place to stay until the real owners had come and put them out. So thanks, Kat. Good job. You really saved us there, girl. The people at the courthouse asked if we knew that the work that I had done would cost an attorney $5,000 to $6,000. I was like, well, that's okay. They can put it on my IOU. I said, because I'm not finished yet. I said, I'm still making it livable, so much less a home. So I'll total all that up later. And we all, Lee, I, and her, we all got a cackle out of it. He was like, yeah. And anyway, so we got in, but lots of work. It needed a new roof immediately, and his dad ordered a garage that was hauled from Kentucky to there, and was actually over $300 a paint. The payment was over $300 a month, and it was going to be for a very long time. We were both, Lee and I, very confused about that, because here we're like struggling, trying to get everything taken care of, and now he just threw us into another bill. So much more would have been a smarter way to use that money, in my opinion. But for now, what could I do? He made Lee aware that he expected half of it from him as well. Unfair, in my opinion. But now, the story takes a bit of a turn. As soon as we get in and are on our way to getting his dad, on our way to getting stability, his dad started complaining he had been complaining for a month or so about not being able to swallow. Something in his throat felt wrong. So he felt like something was blocking the way. So we were trying different things, and his daughter lived in Clarksville, and she would take him back and forth to the doctor sometimes. So I mentioned to her that when they go to his next appointment, make them aware of it, because he's having a hard time eating. And if you knew his dad, that was his all-time favorite thing in the world to do, was to eat. Well, come to find out, Lee's nephew passed away, which threw the family for a loop. And the following week, his niece was found passed away one morning from an accidental pill overdose. The family was really going through it. All during this, his dad's test came back from the doctor, and he had cancer. What we were like, could only anything else go wrong? His dad had to move in with his daughter because it was harder. It was hard getting him back and forth to appointments and things. So the deal between Lee and his dad on the place is Lee would make the payment on the place and his dad would pay the bills. And as for the garage, Lee would just give him the half of that each month. So when he had to move in with his daughter, she said she would make sure that the bills were paid, because she was now taking on his money and responsibilities for him. And Lee could come get money for the feed for the dog when it ran out of dog food. Needless to say, his dad never made it back. He quickly passed after the nephew and niece, as well as the cat and dog. It was a complete whirlwind of shock. Well, Lee's dad had 6 kids, so he gave a little cash to the twin brothers before he passed, as well as for like a little inheritance, as well as a camper and boats and stuff to certain ones and this and that. And for Lee, he said he could have his half of the place. That thing about that, though, is that place first has to be paid for. And so I guess the monies that he had put down, he could look at as an inheritance. But he was now in double for what he was supposed to be. And the only way that we was going to be able to do this from the beginning was if we all three did it together. But, so let me see, hold on. Well, before passing, Lee was having moments of disagreements and hardships with his family, because they all wanted their little piece of the home, but they were unaware that the home was on a contract for deed, not a paid for, transferred into their name deed. The daughter had even taken the papers behind Lee's back to an attorney to see what she could get out of it. This all after finding out she totaled up $28,000 in cash out of his safe that wasn't shared with the family either. And wait, I'm not finished yet. Well, Lee and I talked, and I told him that I would do it. I wasn't going to leave him hanging, because I had already handed him my cards, my money, everything. And anyway, so if something did happen and we split apart, which it wouldn't, I said, he was the only driving legal person in the house, so I would give him the paperwork and title to the truck that my dad had recently bought me, and he could just get it in his name, and the insurance and stuff I would pay for each month along with the other bills, as well as I paid his phone and his and my phones. Okay, we could do all of this, but hold on, we was not most certainly going to be able to do it with the $400 garage payment. So I got in touch with the company, explained of his dad's passing, and we couldn't afford. They were very happy and helpful, but he still owed so much because, come to find out, his sister never paid the bills on the garage or anything. Well, then the day before Christmas Eve, the electric company was coming to shut us off. So when I contacted them and explained this is the day before Christmas Eve, his dad was the one responsible for all of this, and he had got cancer, and his sister was supposed to be in charge of paying the bills. So is there any way you can work something out with me? She said, absolutely not. She said, I've worked with you 3 times, and you all haven't followed through with your end. And I stated, you haven't worked nothing out with me. And it confused me. So I was like, I inquired about how long they hadn't been paid. She hadn't paid the bills. The electric bill was $1,200 alone. That means the water, the garbage pickup, and whatever else we owed on the garage, and no telling how much everything was going to be. And he didn't know. He didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't know what we were going to do. So I went to my parents and I borrowed a couple $1,000s the day before Christmas Eve. And I made the payment rate, or paid payment, and arranged things out with everybody else. Eventually, I did get them paid. So with what his dad paid, I felt if we were going to do this half and half, like he and his dad had planned, his dad's part, and I would do his dad's part, the was now his. Wait, I don't know what I'm saying. Hold on. His dad's part was now his, and now my dad's money. Okay, the money his dad had put down in the beginning, I felt more that I'd contributed now my stake for the money I had to borrow from my dad and pay back, and all the work that I had been doing and still was doing. The day his dad died, he and I made a written agreement. I wrote out the agreement about the truck, bills, payment, everything, because I gave him the title that day, and he was headed to the license branch to get it tagged. So after I wrote it out, we both signed it, and he was headed to the license branch. Right after that, my mom and dad stopped in. Well, my dad stayed out in the truck, and my mom walked in, and as soon as she walked in, I showed her the paper because it was in my hand. And she said, oh, Kathy, I hope he follows through. She said, at least you got it wrote down. I said, he will. I trust him. I said, I'd trust him even if we didn't have that wrote up. She said, okay, I hope you're right. Before she walked out, my phone rang. His dad passed away, and they were calling in for the family to come in. So he went on to where his dad was, the hospital over in Kentucky, before even coming home that day. And let me tell you, that was one big memorable day. So just settled in to 5 more years of being a responsible, good person, girlfriend, and citizen. And now on probation, paying for a home, safety, and stability. I couldn't be stressed about it though, because after all, look where I came from. Look at the life I left. I first wait a minute. I actually was very happy and content with the way things were now compared to what they had been, and I actually had a glimpse of a future. I had no complaints. So on the next episode of my testimony, I will be introducing you to the witch, and I'm not saying that as a slang. I'm talking about a real witch in a coven who does voodoo, black magic, and sexual rituals and more, and is responsible for interfering in